Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be my first ever My Team Career Mode video, and I'm really excited to get started, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy this video. Before I start though, I'm going to thank everyone for the amazing support throughout the last month. I've gained 12 subscribers, I've gone from around 70 to 84, and it's really amazing. I hope you guys can continue to subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100 by the end of the year, so I really hope I can hit that goal. If we hit that goal, I might do some open lobbies with you guys for a while, and hopefully that'll be really fun. But without further ado, let's hop straight into this video.
Okay boss, Carl here. Let's get this team up and running. The first thing we need to do is register a team name and bring in some important partners.
Obviously, you've got Carl there just telling us what to do, I guess. And so, thank you, Carl, for that help. And so the first thing we gotta do is enter a team name. And since I'm the owner of the Good Vibes Racing League, which is GVR, I decided to go with GVR F1 team. Obviously, I'm not the only owner in the league. We have other amazing owners helping run the league. But I got GVR F1 team, that's the name that I chose. Heading to the sponsor selection, I was a bit hesitant on which to choose. I wanted to go for an easy one, but I didn't want to go for the really easy ones, so I was just looking through. In the end, I was debating between Distort and the first one, but I ultimately decided going with Distort just because of a higher reward.
Our chassis won't be going anywhere fast without a power unit, so let's sign one of those now. Obviously, the better the performance and durability, the better, but be careful about spending all our cash. We're going to have people and facilities to invest in as well. Power unit suppliers will also provide upgrades throughout the season at no extra cost.
As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by Carl, I ended up choosing Distort due to a higher reward. And heading into the engine, choosing Distort frees up the Mercedes engine, and I just love the sound of it, and it's a high performance engine, so I just went with that. Going for the teammate selection, we have the likes of Mahavir, Mick Schumacher, Giuliano Lacey. I missed a couple other, Calderon, Jaleel. Sorry if I'm butchering any of the names. Pronouncing names isn't my specialty. In the end, I went with Mick Schumacher, who should be a fast second driver and not too expensive. And with that, I'm just going to confirm the settings and move on to the next option.
Select or edit the livery we'll be running this season. We can add more sponsors to the car as we sign them throughout the year. And don't worry, we can edit our look at any time from HQ.
I've decided to keep the car livery a secret until the car reveal, so you guys won't be able to see that just yet. But without further ado, I'm just going to cut straight to Will Buxton's interview and just answer any questions that he has for us. This is his first time on the F1 game, and yeah, here you go, Will Buxton.
Okay, we're live in 5, 4, 3.
Hello folks, and welcome to the HQ of Formula One's newest team. We've been invited backstage to gain an exclusive insight into what could be one of the most exciting entries in the sport for many years. Now, we've seen a number of new teams enter the sport over the last decade, amongst their number Manor, Caterham, HRT and of course Haas. And while some have proved to be successful, others have morphed into different teams and some have disappeared completely. What marks this team out, though, as being something different is that its owner is also its driver. Now, there's a rich history of that in Formula One too. Sir Jack Brabham, John Surtees, Graham Hill and Bruce McLaren all drove their own cars in the sport, but it has become increasingly rare in recent years. What's very special about this team, though, is that while the team itself is new to Formula One, so too is its driver and owner.
Whatever happens this season, you've already made the history books. Tell me, do you feel up to the mammoth task of both managing and driving for a Formula One team?
Nothing in Formula One that's easy is worth doing, and so I just went with that option in the end.
Every team needs 2 drivers, but what was it that drew you to your teammates?
Well, it was the right fit for the team. It was what we wanted to choose, and he fits right in.
No one aims to finish bottom of the table. Who's the team you're aiming to beat?
This question was a bit of a difficult one, because I knew we were going to have some good pace against the Hasses and the Williams, but I wanted to give myself a challenge, so I went with Alfa Romeo.
How are you expecting the car to feel out on track?
I really wanted to focus on the aero and the chassis right off the bat, so I went with the aero option, which focuses on the traction.
The other teams now have years of experience, both on and off the track. How are you planning to catch up to them?
This question was a bit of a tough one. I didn't know whether to go for aero or chassis. I was thinking about going for the engine, but I ultimately went for the aero.
Overtaking is a key part of this sport. How have you ensured that your car can take advantage of each opportunity that comes your way?
Now that I've complemented the aero twice, I decided to go for the chassis, and I went for the light car option.
And finally, which of your new departments are you most proud of?
Since I had already given credit to the aero department twice, I decided to go for the chassis department.
Well, that's about all we've got time for here. We will see how this fledgling team fares in its first Grand Prix.
Okay, great, thank you. That's a wrap.
Before we start this video, if you guys want to see a high quality video, I suggest you go watch big YouTubers such as Tom97, Ereva, and Tiamat Marduk, who post career mode videos every single day, and they're really good. I'm just starting out. I appreciate anyone that views this video, but it's probably best to go and watch one of their videos if you want a full view on what's happening. Taking a look at the facilities, all the facilities are a spec 0, which is to be expected, except for chassis, which is spec 1. And so I go to take a look at the R&D chart, and we are above 4 other teams consisting of the AlphaTauris, Alfa Romeo, Haas, and Williams, which was not something that I expected. We are, on paper, a much better team than I thought. But you can see there, aero around the middle, engine in the middle, chassis a bit to the downside, 4th worst. So we gotta work on chassis a bit more than the rest. But aero, we only have 2 rear downforce upgrades, so we might struggle a lot with the front downforce as the season goes on. And you can see here, I'm just looking at when the upgrades will be finished, and the aero upgrades will go until after round 1, while the chassis upgrade will finish before round 1. So I decided to go for the chassis, I think. I'm not entirely sure. But I decided to go for the chassis because it'll finish before round 1 in Australia, and so it would be the most useful to me and the team. So I just went with that and went to assign some activities. When I went to look at some activities, I noticed the driver training camp helped in a ton of different things. No downsides to it. The 7-day activities had some downsides to 2 departments, so I avoided those 2. So I could go with 2 different 5-day activities, and I went with the driver training camp, and I was thinking between the advertisement campaign and the merchandise sale. And in the beginning, I think I went with the advertisement campaign, but then I switched to the merchandise sale because we need cash. That'll help the team out a ton, so I just went with that. While just trying to get the cash flow going early and get some cash into the bank, basically. Afterwards, I went to visit my driver perks, and in the beginning, I was thinking on not getting anything, but then I went for the R&D development boost because that will help out a ton with getting money.
We've had the new
And I
parts
start
come through
fast
from the
forwarding a
fabrication
bit.
process.
I get
We'll have them
an
with us for the
upgrade.
next
I
Grand
think
Prix.
it was an upgrade. No, it wasn't an upgrade actually. I didn't catch what that was, but we got something on the first. I think it might have been an activity to give us some more resource points, and so you can see here I'm just looking at what to develop, seeing when everything will finish. You'll see the chassis development finishes before Bahrain, but the aero doesn't. So that's really unfortunate for me because I need to work on the aero more than the chassis, which because of the front downforce. You can see right there, I go for the aero upgrade and I go to start advancing some more into the week. We get our resources, not enough to do anything just yet, but I fast forward to the car reveal. And so from here, you guys are going to see the new livery that we have, or it's not really new since I made this a bit beforehand, but without further ado, let's hop straight into the car reveal. And there it is. I personally love this livery. I thought it was amazing. I loved the colors and I made it work for the team. I just really liked it. I hope you guys like this livery as well. If you guys have any color ideas, just let me know. I'll try to get them in. You can see here on the screen, I go straight to the corporate section, the customization, to try and fix, or not fix, add the sponsor decals onto the Halo. Because I feel like no sponsors on the Halo is really disgusting in my opinion. I just don't like it. You can see here the car looks amazing in my opinion from that view, and I'm really glad that I chose this livery. And so I just head back to the overview and continue
Hey boss,
advancing.
I think we
We
could
get the
better
weekly
manage our time
resources,
by organising some
and
team
that's pretty
activities.
good. We're up to
Head to the activity screen
450k,
to see what we have available.
which isn't a lot, I guess. It's pretty good just for the beginning though, so I'm happy about that. You can see here I'm simming up until the merchandise sale is done, so I get 500k, 500 grand, which is pretty good and it's gonna help out a ton. But I go to the contract section, driver perks, and I use some money on a couple perks, which is the driver acclaim and the engine wear, which is the power mapping and the social media team, because, well, for one, claim helps with getting sponsors. Sponsors help with getting money, and we need money. And power mapping is something that's important. We don't want our components wearing out too quickly, especially when we have to focus on other things for during the R&D in the R&D tree. And here we have our chassis upgrade getting completed. We've completed the chassis upgrade, which jumps us up one spot in chassis, which is pretty good. We still have a ton of potential because we are spec 1, while as on the aero side we have 1 or 2 more upgrades before we have to upgrade the facility. And without further ado, I'm just gonna hop straight into the race weekend and go to FP1.
Morning, boss. Jeff here. Thanks again for bringing me on board. You've found a lot of talented people for this team. I can't wait to see what we can accomplish. Our journey to the Constructors' Championship starts here today, and the car is ready to head out whenever you are.
Here we are in our brand new car for the first time in the garage. You can see I'm just having a look around, just seeing what the garage looks like. Everyone in their bright blue uniforms and just checking out everything. First thing I'm going to do is the track acclimatization program, and hopefully that goes well. And so without any more delay, let's head straight out onto the track and I'll tell you guys how the car felt.
Okay, the track is green right now, so take a few laps to get the tyres up to temperature and try and feel your way around.
For starters, I cannot stress how much I love this livery. It looks amazing, in my opinion anyways. I love it. I love the color scheme and everything. And heading into turn 1, just out of the pits, tires are still a bit cold, not not being able to tell anything just yet. But during the practice sessions, I'm not really going to push the car at all. Maybe not even during qualifying. I'm going to give it a shot, but I'm not all that confident just yet. I don't know how much I can, how early I can get on the throttle. I don't know how late I can turn in, any of those stuff. But so far, the car has been great. You can see I missed the apex there for turn 6, which is not ideal, not at all. But it just goes to show how bad the front aero is on this car, the front downforce is on this car, and you really need to slow down earlier than normal, a lot earlier than normal if you wanna make the turn. My biggest fear is this high-speed chicane through turns 9 and 10, because if you go wide over there, you ruin your lap. But if you get it right, you can gain a ton of time over there, and it can really help you out in your lap time. But really, all I want to do is just get to know the car, just get a better feel for the car, understand what I want to do. Either I run wide through turn 1, turn 2 is pretty good, but ran wide through turn 1 due to the lack of downforce, which was really annoying. That was the one thing that I could actually feel in the car that was really off, and it was really frustrating at times. Right there, I understeer off again. Really unfortunate. I turned it a bit earlier into turn 6 so that I don't understeer, but I turned it a bit too early and just almost lost the car. And I went through turn 9. I went through turn 9 pretty well. Turn 10 was alright. Heading into turn 11, I said turn 9 and 10 earlier. I meant 11 and 12. I run wide through turn 11, and it just ruins my sector, basically. I have to lift off a ton more, and yeah, it just doesn't really help out. You can see the next corner was green after turn 12, so that was pretty bad. The rest of the lap is pretty good until I lock up right here. It slows me down quite a bit, but overall it was a pretty good lap. I ended up getting purple throughout this practice program. I got purple afterwards, so that was great.
Good work. You seem to have a solid handle on the lap. Let's try and perfect each turn. Remember that chaining good corners together will give you a consistency bonus.
And then I just basically just do more practice programs and things like that. And I'm going through the fuel saving, and I get on the power a bit too early, or not early. I get on the power on the curb, which is not what I want to do, and so I have to find a way to turn the car around without getting a penalty or getting disqualified, which is something the game loves to do. And I managed to do it, but I've got red wings, so that's not good. Later on that same lap, though, when I'm still heading over to the pits, I sort of forget I have wing damage. I brake like 30 or so meters before the mark, but it's a bit too late. And then I'm not focused at all on my game. I'm focused on something else. And so by the time I realize that I'm still going straight, I hit the wall. I try to turn. I have no wings, so I couldn't turn, and I just hit the wall, and I'm out of the practice session. So that was really unfortunate. First ever session with GVR, the GVR F1 team, and it ends in their retirement, which is not something that I really want to see at all.
Session has drawn to a close, so let's review our top 3. Verstappen, Hamilton and Alexander Albon. And if today's practice is anything to go by, we're in for an exceptional weekend of Formula 1.
Even with me crashing out, I still managed to get to P12, but it's called a practice session for a reason, so I'm not going to get my hopes up, and I'm just going to give it my best heading to qualifying. After simulating the remaining practice sessions, I have gotten about 600 resource points combined with my teammate, so that is really good since we're now over that 1,000 mark, and we are almost at the required price for a major upgrade. So that should help us out a ton if we decide to go for chassis or aero. Doesn't really matter which one, but it should help out. So from here on out, I just gotta head to qualifying and see what I can do. Going straight to my first and best lap time of the session. I go around the last corner, good exit onto the main straight, and from here on out it's just trying to keep a good and consistent lap. Although this was a pretty bad lap, you can see right there I ran pretty wide on turn 1. I made a couple of mistakes that ruined the lap, but I couldn't get a faster lap time later on due to just me messing up my lap, so that was my fault. As I get better at the game, as I get better at using a racing wheel, I should be able to eliminate all those mistakes. But you've seen so far, I've nailed just about every single turn. The car is feeling amazing on these soft compound tires, and I've never actually pushed this car before, so I'm not entirely sure where the limits are. But right there, I get a mini swivel coming out of that turn 10 I believe, and so that loses quite a lot of time. I lose like 3 or 4 tenths out of that turn, but really I've never, as I was saying before, I've never pushed this car before, so I'm not entirely sure of what to expect. It feels amazing compared to 2019 cars though, and it's really something that's a bit confusing how such a bad car can feel so good compared to the cars of last year. It just feels a lot more planted. And here I am running the last turn on the main straight. Across the line, it's a 1:23.8, which is not a good lap time. It's really bad. Move over to the side of the road to let stroll by, but there is some contact, and I get a 5-place grid penalty, which is fully deserved. But what I'm really confused about is how he didn't get by any quicker, because I thought I left him enough space and enough time, but apparently I didn't, and so it's just really frustrating overall, and I'm going to have to start from the back of the grid most likely. See there, I'm just not focused anymore. I'm really frustrated, and it's just really getting to me. And so I just fast forward to the end of the session where Mick Schumacher actually got through to Q2 with a time that was about 5/10 faster than mine, and I only managed P21, which is really frustrating, and I know I could have gotten into Q2 easily. I didn't need to push that hard either. I just messed up my laps, and I got knocked out in Q1, so I'll just have to make up for it in the race.
It's finally time once again to begin what promises to be another thrilling season of Formula One action. Pre-season times, subject of so much discussion in recent weeks, mean nothing now, as the cars line up to battle it out for points once again. So let's get this season underway. Welcome to the Australian Grand Prix. We go racing today then in the state of Victoria, where the drivers have 16 corners and 3.3 miles to navigate at an average lap speed of around 120 miles an hour. The close proximity of the barriers makes accidents inevitable, and recent history shows us that a safety car is not at all out of the question. Can Mercedes start with victory in their bid to win a 7th consecutive Constructors' title? Could Ferrari or Red Bull establish an advantage early on? And with 22 cars on the grid, how quickly can the new team find their footing? Well, it's great to be back, Anthony Davidson. We've got a lot to talk about this year.
That's right, Crofty. It felt like a long winter, but it's good to finally be back. I have to think the usual suspects will battle it out at the front, but there are always going to be some teething problems early on in the season, so whoever can keep on top of their issues will have the advantage today.
As I mentioned earlier, we're up to 11 teams this season with a new... Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Vettel, Max Verstappen, and Albon, Sainz, Norris, Ricciardo and Sergio Perez. Fiat, Ocon, Kimi Raikkonen and Gasly, Schumacher, Magnussen, Lance Stroll and Roman Grosjean. Giovinazzi, Russell, Latifi and the owner-driver rounds off the grid. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
I forgot to tell you guys as well that I took a 65 place grid penalty because I swapped out all my engine components since I was starting at the back, and I'll probably need them later on in the season. So I just took a new set of engine components, and yeah, no need to worry about that. And yeah, I mean, there's not much to do. I accidentally skipped a part, but hopefully I'll be able to make up for everything that went wrong in quali here in the race.
Better than this. Come on.
First thing going on, I underfueled the car a ton, it's still overfueled, but a lot less fuel than it has right now. I go for 15.5 laps of fuel, which is half a lap extra, and just get started for the formation lap. During the formation lap, I just barely outbrake myself and just barely hit Nicholas Latifi. And I'm just thinking about restarting the session. I don't want to start the race on cold tires, but I changed my mind and just decided to go with it. And I'm disqualified from the formation lap, so that's really unfortunate. But then while everyone's lining up to the grid, we go to 5 red lights. And we are off for the start of the Australian GP, but I get a horrible start, just a horrendous start, and I am light years behind everyone in front of me. But due to the AI being really slow to turn 1, I managed to catch up most of the way. So we see a front wing flying, and since my tires are so cold, I almost spin the car into turn 2. They're just barely saving it, and the AI going really slow through turn 3 due to the lap 1 stacking up and all that. But I'm racing on 95 AI. I'm not the best racer in the world, but this is just the AI that fits me. I don't want to go too hard, but hopefully I'll be improving as the series goes on, and you guys will be able to witness me improving. So I look at the temps, and both of my front tires are still way below the optimal temperature. So basically my job here is just to try and heat them up from here on out. Then moving on to the end of lap number 1, I go for a huge dive bomb on George Russell into the penultimate corner. We're going side by side until he decides to go into the pits, and I'm guessing the wing damage that flew off on turn 1 was his. And just a reminder, I'm racing on full damage, so any hit will most likely take out my wing and anyone else's wing. Here we are on the end of lap number 4, heading to lap number 5. We've finally caught up to Nicholas Latifi ahead. Pierre Gasly actually pit on lap 1, which is something that I missed. But here we are heading into turn 1, exiting turn 2, really close to Latifi, going to overtake DRS, Rich Mix, going to the inside, and I go down the first gear to get the car rotated and get the move done on him. Even though I run wide through turn 4, could give him a chance to attack me into the next sector or next section of turns, but he's too far behind. So I managed to move up into P19 of this Australian Grand Prix. But my good luck does not last very long, as I go through the high-speed chicane and go very wide onto the grass, and I spin out. And I'm just waiting for the reset to track. You're just clicking menu until I get it. And I've lost a ton of time, especially Gasly was 32 seconds behind. And it's basically just not gone well. Gasly was 32 seconds behind. He gets a chance to catch up now, and I've lost the place to Latifi. However, there is the first wave of cars making their pit stop on lap number 6, as I am now gonna pit on lap number 7. As they go into turn 1, Lando Norris gets in the way after leaving the pits, and on his cold tires, he holds me up actually. And so I get stuck behind him, and I lose a ton of time because of his cold tires. After getting held up by Lando Norris and his cold tires, I've basically just been dropping back. And Daniel Ricciardo is now on the attack, and I just let him by. I turn on overtake, but then I just turn it off and go to lean. There's no point in fighting him. I'm putting this lap. I'm on the slower set of tires, the older set of tires, and in the slower car. And the list just goes on and why I should let him go by. So I just let him by, try not to lose as much time, and I have to focus on getting a recovery drive as they go into the pits. The main thing here is to not get a speeding in the pit lane penalty, which thankfully I don't, but I lose quite a lot of time as I brake a bit too early. So going into the pits, I'm training to a set of medium compound tires, and because of my spin, I think that gasoline might actually get me here, and I think he does. As I'm leaving the pit lane, he just barely comes out in front of me. You can see right on the minimap, he's appeared, and he just barely gets out in front of me. But I gotta remember that I have 7 lap fresher medium compound tires, so I should be able to catch him. And so I'll just have to wait and see what happens.
6 laps old. The time last lap was a 1:27.5.
Nicholas Latifi made his pit stop earlier on, and you can see I've caught up to Gasly, and Gasly and I have caught up to Nicholas Latifi. We were about 6.5 seconds behind. We're now 2.2 seconds behind him. And I'm getting ready to make a move on Gasly. See, I'm saving some fuel for later on in the race. We've got 4 laps to go. I'm on mediums. His mediums are fading away at this point. His mediums are basically dead. I'm gonna go for a move on the next straight, but then Nicholas Latifi is retired from the Grand Prix with an issue, and I'm just gearing up to go for a move, and then the safety car comes out, and I have been screwed over basically. As I'm rounding turn 1, it says catch the safety car Q, but the safety car is on the left-hand side of the road, so that means that there's gonna be another 2 laps of the safety car. So it's going to be a sprint basically on lap 14, 2-lap sprint till the end of the Grand Prix. And or a 2 or 1-lap sprint till the end of the Grand Prix. And it's going to be really interesting to see who's going to end up on top and if I can get 1 or 2 positions that I need in order to move up into the 18 or anything higher. And then this is when all the stupid stuff start going on. And so I get an illegal overtake on Gasly, even though he's going super slowly. And I'm on the side of the road, and he's not overtaking. Then all of a sudden, he just decides to send it into the back of into my gearbox, and I get a 5-second penalty. And then I also get a 5-second penalty for crashing into him. And the safety cars come in 1 lap earlier than it's supposed to. So it's just I just don't understand anything at all right now. You can see here, I checked the race director. I get 2 penalties for some reason, and it's so stupid. Like, the game is broken at this point. Like, I'm completely confident that the game is broken at this point. And then I just lose all meaning of the word downforce. From here on out, for the last 2 laps, you'll see I go through every single turn. I will understeer off of each turn, and it's really just gonna ruin my race, basically. It's not, I don't know what happened for the game to go like this, to start doing this, but just, the game just broke down on lap 13. I run wide through turn 4, and I just don't understand what's going on anymore. It's all just really weird. Like, I don't understand what happened, why Gasly wouldn't overtake me, and why he was going so slowly in the first place. The reason why I overtook him in the first place was because I didn't understand why he was going slowly, and I thought I could overtake him for going that slowly under the safety car. But apparently I couldn't. So, I don't know how that works, but I couldn't overtake him going under the safety car. So I went to the side of the road, and he didn't overtake me. Then he just decided to speed up randomly and just hit me in the back, and I got a 5-second penalty for both of those, for both incidents. You can see here, lap number 14, 3 turns to go. I understeer a lot, and then I just spin it. I really don't know what's going on at this point. Like, I'm baffled by what's going on, and Lando Norris is out of the session. I've lost hope that this is even this is even a real game at this point. I just basically I'm just trying to finish the race in one piece. Be there. I understeer through turn 1. I've lost all downforce, which means I really need to try getting some more downforce upgrades in the future. Turn 3 is fine. Turn 4, I understeer off, almost lose the car, just barely managed to save it. Then I understeer off for turn 5, I think that's turn 5. And I just don't understand what's going on. And that cycle just keeps on going until the end of the Grand Prix. I just keep on understeering off the track. Gasly is far enough behind for me to get P19, but I don't really understand what happened. It's like a Silverstone. The last couple of laps were mayhem, and all I know is that now I need to get some front downforce upgrades on the car.
Yet another historic win under their belts. Well done to the team at Mercedes. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
Well, the safety car completely changed the race, didn't it? It's hard to say exactly what would have happened without it, but there's no question that they came out of that situation in a good position.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. Time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. Valtteri Bottas passes his rival to take over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Now, let's discuss, Ants. Who would you say is a contender for Driver of the Day? It's time to check out the Constructors' standings. Mercedes move to the top of the table. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
After that race is over, Mick Schumacher had a good result. Surprisingly, Lewis Hamilton wasn't on the podium, and with damage deductions here, we have lost 50k, so we only gained 50k out of that race, but I think that's alright. I just need to focus on R&D from here on out. I need to get the aero to spec 1 and get some front downforce upgrades on the car before I can actually think about getting competitive and competing with the rest of the grid. And so here we are at the team headquarters once again, in between the Australian and the Bahrain Grand Prix. We have 2 days in between, and I'm pretty sure I go for the sponsor event for the Team Acclaim, because that is something we need to build up. And we basically just need to get more aero upgrades down. And since the department capacity has been reached already, perks of having a Spec 0 aero department, we have to go for an upgrade elsewhere. And I'm going to go for the chassis upgrade. A major chassis upgrade that should arrive after Vietnam, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I read that correctly, though. So we should have an upgrade coming in after Vietnam and one after Bahrain. So I'm just fast forwarding up until the Bahrain Grand Prix, just checking to see if there's anything else. This is where I'm going to leave it for the next video, which will be at Bahrain for part 2. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys stuck around this long, then please don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. I'll hopefully be uploading a lot more in the coming days and weeks. And yeah, it's just been really nice to upload videos like these. See you guys next time.